Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi, my name is David Theus, and we are coming to you from Northeast Florida Business Alliance and the Small Business Patriot newsletter. This morning is Saturday. Real time is 8:52 a.m. And if you notice, I'm by myself this morning. Each week, we have been doing what we call a Northeast Florida Business Alliance, the Alliance Member Spotlight, and it's Labor Day weekend. And so I don't mind telling you the date, obviously. It's important. So it's Labor Day weekend, and I'm assuming that lots of our members, self-employed folks, are taking the long weekend to enjoy their family and friends. And I think that's highly important that we have a work-life balance that we maintain. I unfortunately don't always abide by that, but I did have a nice dinner with my wife last night. Went to Texas Roadhouse and saw lots of people and had some good pork chops, some awesome pork chops, and a good time. Had a good evening out last night. So I wanted to come. I'm not here to tell you what we did for dining experience, but so how I decided to do this morning is lots of people have been coming to me recently and asking, Dave, what is it you do? And so I figured I better take this opportunity. This might be a good chance for us to kind of go over some things and share um, in the same keeping of my theme. Who are you? What do you do? And why? This might be a good opportunity, a so-called interview myself. And it's been on my heart this past week. I interviewed Dr. Renee Pleasant last week, and she is with leadership. She has a leadership consulting business, and the word leadership kept bouncing around in my head, and it's something I've always thought I cut my teeth on early in my career, and trying to study leadership and understand it and how people interact with other folks in business and the marketing side of things, the management side of things, and what does it mean to be a good leader? So I wanted to open up, first of all, I did just a quick Google search of, I think the heading I put out was characteristics of a good leader. And here's an article that was written August 26, 2022, 20 leadership qualities that make a great leader with tips. And it comes from, looks like an Indeed article was published. So I'm just going to read the top 20, and then I'm going to get into what we're doing. 20 qualities of an effective leader. Accountability is number one. Interesting. The first one is accountability. Taking ownership of responsibilities and positive and negative outcomes is key to effective leadership. I'm not going to get into every single piece of the definition. Active listening. I kind of pride myself on being a very good listener. Active listening is number two. Number three, collaboration. Often leaders need to collaborate internally across departments and externally with vendors, third-party companies, and contractors. It is important that they know how to find common goals and create partnerships for the most successful and mutually beneficial outcome. Collaboration. Number four, courage. Effective leaders should have the courage to do what is in the best interest of their team and company at all times. Number five, communication. Communicating in an articulate and positive style creates a clear path for the rest of the team, project, or meeting you are leading to follow. This is probably my weak spot as far as communicating the big picture. I do a lot of communicating. Obviously, we use mediums such as this to communicate out to the outside world, but I consider myself somewhat of a visionary, but I typically operate at 10, 15,000 feet and more strategic in thinking. And sometimes I don't do the best job of communicating my vision. And today we're going to try to tackle some of that. Number six, empathy. I don't know how much I talk about empathy, but it's a lot. And I believe this is maybe one of the most important traits that we can possibly have, not only as leaders, but just as human beings, that we can, everyone's heard the term, have you walked in another person's shoes before? Empathy. It's when I talk about it all the time in our group, that there's an emotional transfer that happens when you're building friendships and relationships. It's when that one person who's speaking to the one person who's listening, they see it in your face somehow that this emotional transfer happens, that you get it. You understand their joy, you understand their pain, the challenges they're having, and that's called empathy, is when you can put yourself in their shoes and understand what's going on. The next thing is trust that comes from that. And it's in that trust elements where business begets business. We talk about that all the time in Northeast Florida Business Alliance. Number seven, flexibility. A flexible leader can adjust and maintain ownership of the team, project, or meeting as needed. They're open to new ideas and change as long as it moves the team and company forward. That's another one, flexible. I think in order to be a good small business owner and someone who's successful, you have to be, I call it nimble. You have to be nimble in the marketplace and be able to respond to customers' needs and new trends that are happening. But flexibility is another one. Focus. Number 8 is focus. Um, I think I'm probably my biggest critic, and maybe in my lack of communicating the vision, it may be perceived that I lack focus. But the reality is, I think I'm very focused, although I'm it seems like sometimes I'm a little bit scatterbrained, but that's just because I'm trying so many different elements to see I'm being nimble, I guess. But a good leader sets a practical vision and suitable, achievable targets. They know how to set smart goals. Hey, how about that, Dr. Renee? Smart goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Using the SMART goal framework can establish strong foundation for achieving success. Good tips. Number 9, growth mindset. Leaders do well when they adopt a growth mindset. Number 10, eager to learn. Boy, I've always said that if you stop learning, you're dying. There's always an opportunity for us to learn something new, to brush up on something old, to gain some new information. Learning is probably my most sought after resource, is to be able to learn more and to gain new information. Number 11, innovation. Leaders often develop ideas, solve problems, and complete tasks that require innovation and creativity. I think we do a lot of that with the Northeast Florida Business Alliance and the mediums that we're choosing and the new attempts to try things to put people together and build relationships and foster those relationships and friendships. And so innovation, very good. Number 12, optimism. I'm totally the guy that the cup is half full. Um, I I've my entire career has been about potential. I see the potential in the kids I've coached in football. There's never been someone who's been ruled out. There's always potential, and there's a chance to improve. There's a chance for a team to get better. There's a chance for an organization to get better. Optimism is, I don't understand pessimism. And pessimism is a dull and just a sad state of affairs. Much rather be optimistic, even when the odds are against you. Be optimistic. Passion. Uh, this is goes without saying. Passion is kind of one of those stepsisters of optimism, I think. But if you're not passionate about the work you're doing, if you don't believe in yourself and believe in the work that you're doing, that it's important, then I'm not sure how you get out of bed in the morning. And so I'm passionate about our country. I'm passionate about our nation and this great gift that God's bestowed upon us as Americans. I'm passionate about our communities, Clay County and surrounding areas, St. Johns County and Duval County. I'm passionate about the people that choose to live here for whatever reasons, to pursue their own happiness and to start small businesses, to leave large corporations, maybe the comfort of as one of my members said, a swanky paycheck, and put it all on the line and risk everything to go out and try something they believe and they're passionate about. I think that's important. Patience. Well, I remember my mother saying, "Don't ever pray for patience, because God will surely give you something that'll drive patience for you." But as a father, I've learned over the years, I didn't have a lot of patience as a single person. I'll be the first to tell you that. Maybe that's a growing pain that we all work through. But as you become a father, a parent, you learn patience. And then even in my career path, early on, I was in the sales business, and we were always trying to create urgency. That was the big buzzword of the day: is you got to create urgency. And when you're trying to create urgency, patience is troublesome, because you're trying to get it done right now, and you don't understand why your customers aren't moving right now. But the reality is, patience is key, because I don't necessarily believe that we can truly create urgency. At the end of the day, the customer is going to do what they want to do when they want to do it, and when they feel the need is there to do it, and they can make heads or tails of it. It's not just about you being in the right place at the right time all the time, but it's about being patient and being serving your customer first and serving your clients first and being there ready for them when they're ready to make a decision. So that's how I define patience, is even in your children. serving your children and being a parent to your children first and being a good parent. And then when they screw up and do things that, they're not supposed to do, be patient with them and be not so ready to anger and not so ready to vengeance, if you will. But give them the benefit of the doubt, hold them to the road, keep them between the yellow lines, as I like to say, but patience. I get it. I screw up all the time, and I'm hoping someone's patient with me. Problem solving. Let's see, number 15 is problem solving. That's probably a skill that I look for the most is how can we break this problem down? How can we pull it apart and find the pieces that make it an issue? Um, Problem solving for a good leader. It's important. Resilience. Leaders are perceptive and know how to handle themselves in both positive and potentially difficult situations. This might mean creating new processes, hiring new people, and changing the status quo. A resilient leader focuses on the end results, avoids distractions, and leads by example. And I think another great talent that you must have as a leader is resilience to understand that there are going to be bumps in the road. There are going to be speed bumps and potholes, as I say. Know they're coming, and so therefore, when they do show up, you're not just falling apart. These are just temporary obstacles that we have to get over or get around. And in time, that patience will pay off as well as the resilience will pay off, and you'll be able to achieve your goals. Just hang in there. Respect, number 17. Effective leaders treat their teams with respect, which can help them gain respect in return. This goes back to the golden rule, to treat others as you expect to be treated yourself. The one of the when Christ said to love me with all your heart and soul, you're to love God with all your heart and soul, and then go out and love your neighbors. That's something I lean on a lot lately, and I wish I'd learned it 40 years ago and really embraced it. But it's been about 15 years when I finally took it under heart. And respect for one another is key. Without respect for one another, we have chaos. It's the key to society getting along with one another. I'm not saying that we have to agree or we have to compromise for each other's standards or morals or principles, but we have to have respect for one another. Each of us, when I was in the fraternity, in Sigma Chi fraternity, we had a saying that said different people from different talents, temperaments, and convictions can come together in a body, a group of people, a group of brothers, and we all come from different walks of life, and we can come together with a commonality and get along. It doesn't mean, again, we have to agree with everything. We don't have to agree with everyone's personal position on things, but different talents, temperaments, and convictions, we can still have respect for one another. I think that's definitely a good sign of a good leader and realizing that each one of us are made differently and each one of us come from different backgrounds and different temperaments. And if you're going to be a good leader, then you've got to have some respect for one another because ultimately you want people to respect you. And so it seems to go hand in hand. Okay, self-awareness. Successful leaders express the skills and knowledge required for a certain role in an organization or specialty. They know their abilities and limitations and advocate for themselves based on their self-awareness. This is a big one. This is you being able to look in the mirror and say, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. To be able to say, I'm going to have to reach out to someone out for some help. I'm going to have to ask for help. That's a tough thing for us men, especially. But to be self-aware and to know that your limitations, what you're capable of doing, and when it's time to turn to a friend or turn to someone else, say, look, I need some help. I can't get this done on my own. I'm going to have to build a team, or I'm going to have to go with someone that's a little bit smarter than I am to find the answers. I think that's critical, and that speaks to humility. I think it speaks to empathy as well. But being self-aware is a critical talent. Transparency, number 19. We're almost done. Being open and honest makes work more efficient and enjoyable. Good leaders consider the consequences of their decisions and actions for both teams and customers, setting a role model for employees to do the same. They ask for help when needed and provide honest and constructive feedback. That's interesting, that definition of transparency. I come from I've had two careers. One is a furniture manufacturer's furniture rep for 15 years. My sister and I owned a firm that we covered the entire state of Florida. and called on architectural and design firms and end users and dealer distributors for office contract furniture. And then the second half of my career was 15 years as a registered representative in a what I call an advisory role in the financial services. And transparency speaks to the compliance, for me, speaks to the compliance piece of the business, that you're an open book. There shouldn't be any hidden agendas. There shouldn't be any um, alternate motives that you're trying to accomplish, either for your customer or behind your customer. That you're just clearly an open book. This is who I am. This is my objective. This is my agenda. I want it to be fully open so that you can see clearly my motives and where we're going with this. And so transparency speaks to honesty and trustworthiness, I believe, and living beyond reproach. That's something I strive for every day, is to live beyond reproach, to not allow myself to be put into situations that are going to be someone will have a chance to misinterpret or to cast some sort of negative implication toward. And by being transparent and fully open, I think you can avoid a lot of those situations well ahead of the time. So transparency, that should be up a little bit further than number 19, but it's number 19 on this list. And the last one, lo and behold, number 20 is trust. I speak about trust all the time. Well, let's read the definition here. Showing trust in your team can improve employee morale and motivation. When you allow your team members to work autonomously, make their own decisions, and apply their skills and knowledge in the workplace, they may feel more valued for their professional expertise. To show trust in your team, involve them in decision-making processes when possible and empower them to make choices in their roles. Invite them to help define reasonable expectations for their role, set their own goals, and create processes that guide their efforts. So trust, number 20. Again, trust, transparency, patience. Trust is a big one. If we don't have trust for one another, we have nothing. So I'm not sure that would be number 20 in my list, but it's on the list and it's important. So the tips and traits or characteristics of a good leader, there's the top 20. And I'll put that link in the show notes so that you can find that article and share it with your friends and colleagues if you want to. That'd be a good idea, Dave. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about what Dave does. I know you're riveted. You can't wait to hear this. So I told you I had two careers, basically, as a furniture representative for the first 15 years. And after the towers got hit in 9/11, manufacturing took a pill, as I always say. And so got out of the business. I was working with a large company called Herman Miller, was one of the factories that owned one of our lines, a Meridian Filing Company. And then my sister and I had about 13 or 14 different lines of furniture that we were actually the factory reps for. And our territory was the state of Florida and the Caribbean for a couple of those. So I got to travel about 60,000 miles a year on the road back when the gas was reasonable. And toward the end of that time frame, I flew twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to Fort Lauderdale and also Memphis, Tennessee, of all places. But anyway, it was a lot of traveling. Got to go to Chicago every summer for 2 weeks to work at NeoCon, the big trade show, national trade show, and got to experience a lot of training from a Fortune 100 company, Herman Miller, for example. They put us through a lot of sales, professional training, and development. So it was a very good experience for a 20-something-year-old through 30-something-year-old to live life on the road and with an expense account and have some fun, really. So we got out of that business after 9/11. And my mother and father were aged. They were aging. My dad was about 84, 85 years old, and he had an incident that the doctor basically said you got about 9 months to get your stuff together. And sure enough, long story short, 9 months he passed. And my mother was left behind. And I got to see caregiving first, right up front, what it looked like to be a caregiver for somebody. With my father passing, that he wasn't a wealthy man, but he was a product of the baby of the post depression, and so they saved everything. And thankfully, he put money aside and saved, and had enough money that was in the bank that mom would need long term care as well, without an insurance policy, and there was enough money to fund her care in Orlando, and then she ultimately moved up north with us here in the Jacksonville area where she would pass eventually at a nursing home in the area. And so it became pretty apparent to me that this long-term care episode was going to be pretty expensive and challenging for people. And so basically, I said, well, as a small business person and someone with entrepreneurial spirit, I'm going to go get licensed. I didn't know what was really doing, but I'm going to go take a course and get my insurance license. And lo and behold, I passed. Went to Florida State College. At the time, it was FCCJ, and passed my insurance license. And I met a fella, and his name escapes me right now, but he's just uh, a great insurance guy here in town. If I said his name, most of the insurance guys would know who he is, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. That's terrible. But he guided me toward long-term care insurance, and then also he might have helped me get appointed with John Hancock. He was really tied to Hancock really well. But the fortunate thing is, I got appointed with John Hancock, and I started selling long-term care insurance. And so, soon after taking some cases back to the office over in Jacksonville, they convinced me to come in and work as a captured agent, if you will. And then I started to pursue my securities license and never made it to the quote unquote American College advisor, financial advisor, but became a registered representative, which the short version of that is, which licensed me to sell mutual funds and be compensated on securities, except for stock. Most of my business was in the insurance side, the protection side of the business, helping small business owners. So I had I don't know, a book of 400 customers, I guess, and all of them were small business owners from one person shops all the way up to a couple hundred employees. And so we did a lot of large corporate and privately owned life insurance policies. I won't get into the details about that, and a ton of long-term care business, and some managed, maybe $14 million in assets managed, but not a traditional financial advisor role. Anyway, so moving forward, about 4.5, 5 years ago, my wife came to me and said, "Listen, we have two daughters, by the way. An oldest who's now 34, and she's married with five babies, so five grandchildren to us. And during the time when she was of age in high school, I was working all the time. And so Sheila, my wife, came to me and said, "Listen, our youngest, Sarah, is going to be a junior in high school, and you're not going to know her very well either. And so you better figure out a way to come home and get to know her." And so Sheila gave me license to to come home. And so I went back to my broker dealer and explained to them the situation, said, I want to get out of the business. And so he kept me on in the life insurance side of it for a while, but I had to retire my securities side of the business, which was fine. And so our youngest Sarah at the time was playing golf and for the local high school, Fleming Allen High School. And she was in the photography academy as well. And so she and I played a lot of golf together. And she introduced me to Coach Springs, Damian Springs, the head coach over at the Fleming Allen High School. And I started to volunteer as an offensive line coach over there. And I needed something to do. So I started this during the day when she would go to school. I started this little networking group, if for lack of a better term, called Promote Clay. And so I'm going to try something here. Promote Clay was basically an opportunity for I didn't have to drive across the Buckman Bridge anymore, and I wanted to do something with local businesses and help them be successful. And I wanted to find local businesses and teach them, if you will, the secret that I found successful, and that's about building relationships. And so there's some metrics that go along with business. You know, how many people you have to have conversations with, how many new calls you have to make, how many sits, you know, or one-on-ones you have to have, and what's your closing percentage, and what's your average cost of your sale. And you can start doing some reverse engineering and figure out what kind of income you want to make. And then if you want to make $100,000 a year, and you know this math, then you're going to have to sit in front of 250 people a year or whatever the number is. And so that works. There are some people that believe in the metrics, definitely, and it is a real thing. But I just came to grips with the relationship piece of it, and all my career has always been the most rewarding because not only do you get to do business, but you also get to make some friends as well. And so I used to jokingly say I get paid to make new friends. And so Promote Clay Facebook was, has been around for a while, and Facebook was an entity, and Instagram, and literally my daughter Sarah taught me how to use Instagram, and I started driving around taking pictures of local storefronts. It was crazy. And I would take a picture of the local storefront and I would post it to the Instagram Promote Clay page, and people would start liking it. I was like, well, this is weird. Who does this? And so I started 3 pages on Facebook, Promote Clay. If you're not aware of this, Promote Duval and Promote St. John's. It just seemed like they were proximity wise the closest to being, all I could see people traveling back and forth into each county without driving all over the state. And I wanted to start this entity, if you will, of promoting businesses in these 3 counties. Well, what I quickly found out was it's a lot of time. And I only had time for Promote Clay. And so I somewhat shelved Promote Duval and Promote St. John's almost 4 or 5 years ago, and put all my emphasis into Promote Clay. Now, I love Clay County. It's my home. Yeah, we've been here for, I don't know, 8 years now, I guess. And it's the closest, it's the first place I can actually say since I moved away from Orlando, being born and raised in Orlando before Disney, that Clay County is home. And there's a special spot in my heart for this part of the state, and I love it. So um, anyway, so that's why we put our focus on Promote Clay. And so we started this little networking group. And we would meet at different places. And the whole idea was to travel. We called them pop-up networking, or pop-up networking. And we would meet at one coffee house. We would go to another place, and we would actually go into people's businesses. Um, I remember we went to we went all over the place. We'd literally, I would call people and say, "Listen, I got these group of 18 to 20 people. The only thing that you have to do is buy us nosh, coffee and nosh, bagels or whatever. That's your cost, and we'll come and you get to tell us a little bit about your business, and then we get to learn, and then we get to have our space for a meeting." That was the concept behind it. And I learned that from the furniture business because we did lunch and learns all the time, where I would take lunch and cater food to these clients of mine, either the end user or architectural design firms, and we would bring the food in and then have our conversation. Well, I took the same theory and said, let's apply that to the local businesses. Well, it was a big success. It was a big hit. People loved it. They got to talk about their business. We got to see it firsthand. Other business owners were in their space and seeing it firsthand. Well, we grew. We got up over 100 members. And then, of course, COVID comes along, and then nobody wants people to come into their office. So we had to move around and try something different. So, interestingly enough, some of you may know this or may not, but in 2020, in 2019, 2020, Yoho, our congressperson at the time, decided he was going to self-term and hold to his word that he was going to stay for 8 years. I think it was December 13th or something like that, or the 8th, I can't remember the date, but he officially acknowledged what he said he was going to do and said, I'm not going to run again. So that seat became available. And I'm not going to get into too much of that as far as the story, but I decided to. There's a long story to it, but how it came about, I actually ran for Congress in 2020. Some of you may know that, some of you may not. That's the race. There were 10 of us Republicans in, and Kat Kamek became our congressperson. And so it's a really interesting time, from January when I announced my candidacy to August to the primary. My goal was to meet 10,000 people in this space right here, in handshake space. Mind you, this is COVID, the height of all the craziness where people had no idea what was going on. And I met 9,600, give or take a couple, probably a little bit more than 9,600, but I'm a numbers guy, so I track it. And I was able to meet 9,600 people in this space, not just, throwing a flyer at them, but stopping and talking to them and introducing myself and having a conversation. So from the 6 counties that we were in, Alachua, Bradford, Clay, Marion, Putnam, and Union County, 6 counties, I met 9,600 people from January to August 18th. And what a blast. I just had a great time meeting new people and sharing my thoughts and listening to their needs and concerns. And I got to see behind the curtain, as I like to say, and what it looks like to run for an office. Not so pretty. all along the way, and you get to see some realities that maybe the electorate doesn't get to see. And you learn some things along the way that maybe you didn't ultimately want to learn, but you do. It just happens. If you've ever been a candidate for a campaign, you as I say, there's good, bad, and ugly with it. Um, a lot of bad and ugly, but it is the process. And so it woke up an awareness in me. It woke up a sense of passion about what I feel about this country, what I feel about small business owners, and why it's important to have small business owners. And I think it doubled down on my passion and my intentionality to be someone that was promoting local business and the importance of it. How, of course, our numbers are declining because of recent events and what's happening in our current regime, trying to kill small business, if you're not aware of that. But the reality is we're responsible for over 60% of the employed Americans. So if you look to your left or to your right or across the street from you or yourself, you probably have a neighbor that's a small business owner. It could be a realtor, could be a one-person shop that you're not even aware that's what they do. They could own a restaurant here in town. Um, they could own a small manufacturing concern. Um, they could be an architect, interior designer, who knows? But small business owners, whether they're one-person shops or multitudes of people, hire about 60% of the folks that work in America. And so they are vastly important to our economy. And I think they speak to the true individualism, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, the rugged individualism of Americans. We're the last of the pioneers. We're the ones that would have been on the carts heading out to the wagons, heading out west looking for the new frontier. Because ultimately, as we know today, big business has made their bed with government because there's tax benefits, there's agendas that they're trying to accomplish, and there's some negotiations going on with big business and big government right now. And government has sided with big business to help push their agenda. And big businesses said, "We'll play along as long as you leave us alone." And this is very kind of summarizing what's happening, but the reality is that's the truth. And so, us small business owners, government has figured out that they can't control us. And so they don't know where we are. We're out there in the bushes running around doing what we do. And so now, if you've noticed, there's some tax audits getting ready to come, some additional IRS agents, and there's some code that's being, IRS code that's being laid out for us. And there's some compliance issues. There's lockdowns and closing us down, small businesses during COVID to try to drown us out. And if I sound somewhat conspiratorial, sorry, but I believe that the goal of this administration is to put us out of business. And so that's that small business patriot that you hear me talking about sometimes. The goal of our current administration is to bring us under compliance, which is the thumb of big government, and to put us out of business. And so um, I don't think that fits my pursuit of happiness. I don't think that that is constitutional. I don't think it's what our framers and founders had in mind. I believe that small business people were important then, obviously, and as important now. And so, without a middle class and small business communities, our nation is in deep, deep trouble. And so, I have committed myself as we've gone from promote clay, and we'll talk about in a moment some of the development, how that's expanded. But from a small business patriot standpoint, that's where I come from. And maybe this run for Congress that I did in 20, I don't know if it exasperated it or revealed it or enlightened me somehow to the realities of what's going on. It made me more aware. Talk about being self-aware, but it gave me more awareness of what's going on, and it caused me to do more research and caused me to do some more investigative look into what's going on and what motivates people. I'm a huge student of what motivates people to do things, even locally, within my own household. And so when I started to evaluate why our government does things, and especially now we have this new administration, what's behind it? Is it because they just are the authors of good policy or bad policy, or is there something else afoot? And it's not about good policy or bad policy. It's about destroying the middle class and the small business owner. And there's a whole lot of other things going on that I really don't want to get into for this conversation of this what is it that Dave does? But let's just say I've been awakened. And I think as our nation progresses through this trial that we're in, um, a lot of people hopefully are waking up as well. And we can stand in the gap here because we're going to each be called upon to stand up for what we feel to be true, and we're going to need you to stand up because we're going to have it's going to get worse before it gets better. So anyway, we're going to get me off track, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. So that's that side as far as what did my run for Congress do, and how did it affect my association with small business, and how I was awakened to it. So let's get back to the local scene here real quick. So I'm going to try and attempt to share some screens. So on Facebook, we started an entity on Facebook called Promote Clay, and we have one on Instagram as well. And there's a Twitter account out there, which is interesting because those are mostly sports endeavors, like coaches and local high schools and so forth that use Twitter for sporting events. But the bottom line is Promote Clay is, let's see if I can do this shared screen real quick. Okay. Everybody can see that probably. But if you go to Facebook and like and follow along with Promote Clay, dedicated to those who call Clay County home and our visitors, frequent our local businesses, and enjoy our hospitality. Promote Clay, Clay Eats, and Employ Clay. So we'll get to those in just a second. But this is the Promote Clay site, and the goal here is to find local businesses um, to help small businesses get an extra leg up, if you will. And there's a lot of things that our county has some great landmarks. Here's the latest Fleming Island High School. Golden Eagles beat the team in Tallahassee last night, 51-20. This is going to be a season to remember, by the way. Mark my word, this will be a great season. Here's the family that owns the Grumpy's restaurant over in Middleburg that burned just this past year, and they're relaying to us they're making some progress, and hope that we'll see them open. Here's a couple clients that we're featuring. Northeast Florida Business Alliance. I'm not going to go through all of this, but we're going to talk about Northeast Florida Business Alliance in just a moment. But anyway, Promote Clay is a chance for us to share local goings on that are good things about Clay County has to offer, and events, charitable organizations, some of the schools, and small business. And that's basically what we do on Promote Clay. And this is a page, a Facebook page, which allows me to be the author of what's going out. And so people are always asking me, how do I get to be promoted onto Promote Clay? Well, it's kind of what I like. It's kind of selfish there, but it's the things I think. It's like a magazine. So it allows me to put together a magazine, and the ads, if you will, the companies are the advertisement, and the events and events and local things going on are the content. So Promote Clay. And if you notice, if you're not aware of this, let's see if I can get out of here and try something else. Stop sharing. Okay, hang on one second. Bear with me. Let's see if technology is going to work. We also have a page called Promote St. John's. Let's see if we can find it real quick. We'll see how well I am at technology. So Promote Duval. Let's go to Promote Duval first. And then if you remember, whoops. If you remember, I told you early on that we started, I lied. We started with Promote Clay, Promote Duval, and Promote St. John's. And so here we go. Bear with me, as they say. There you go. Here's Promote Duval. And, you can see we only have 91 followers here, 100, and 153 following. And so this is in its infant stages, but we're also now sharing our businesses from Clay County into this spot, and also talking about things that are going on in Clay County, in Duval County as well. So it's in its somewhat infant stages. There's the Calford Chop House. But here's another platform that we're allowing to talk about Duval County and some of the things that are going on in Duval as well. Okay, so if you weren't aware that we were in Duval, and now I'm going to go back over here. Bear with me. And I'm going to introduce you to St. John's. Bear with me. Okay. How are we doing on the technology shared screen? St. John's. So this is Promote St. John's. And 21K Promotions. That's Peggy Lynch. She's our lady that's helping us develop this over there in St. Johns County. But again, now this is a page where we disseminate information from the page out to the public. And this one has probably a little bit more followers and attendees than the Duval does. And there's a lot of things to talk about in St. Johns County. There's one of our clients from Northeast Florida Business Alliance, Dr. Renee. But there's a lot of cool information that's going on in St. Johns County that we like to share. What is it about St. Augustine? What's the old catchphrase? We're a small fishing village with a drinking problem. With a drinking problem. But St. Augustine, of course, I think it's the oldest city in the continental United States or in the United States. And it's a beautiful town. So we love St. Augustine. We love getting over there for the weekend and people watching. So there's all kinds of cool things that are going on in St. Augustine from a tourist standpoint. But that's Promote St. John's. All right, that's all part of the family. So now let's get to some of the fun stuff. I'm going to stop sharing that. Bear with me. Now, let me tell you the story before we go to the next step. So during the campaign, when I ran for Congress, height of the COVID experience, as you can imagine, I'm in Gainesville, talking to people in Gainesville, and I'm trying to find some places to eat for breakfast. I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, drive over to Gainesville, do my thing, sign waving, talking to people, but I got to get some food. And so I discovered the Gainesville Chamber of Commerce. They get all the credit for this. They came up with a page. I think it's called G&V Eat. And basically they started this page for local restaurateurs that were struggling during the COVID, and they needed an outlet to announce who was serving curbside, takeout, or what have you. And so I actually posted into their site, joined their site, their group, and posted, where can I find a great greasy spoon breakfast place? Because I felt like that's where conservatives would be to have breakfast, and I wanted to go mingle with conservatives. Well, I got about 70 responses of different restaurants throughout Gainesville, and every one of them was spot on. It was perfect, what I was looking for. And so it dawned on me, we've got Promote Clay, and the same things are happening to us in Clay County. We needed something like this. So I'm not the smartest guy in the room again. So I came back with this idea and said, let's make this thing called Clay Eats. So if you're not aware that that's all part of this one family, Clay Eats. And so let me see if I can pull up Clay Eats. I'm going to show you some pretty cool stuff. This has been probably one of our most successful stories. Not probably, it is the most successful story. And it's just a hoot. So let me get out of this. Hang on one second here. I got to move around, get me to another spot. So bear with me. We're trying to do our technology here. Okay, come back to here and we'll share this screen again. All right, so far I'm doing pretty good. Clay Eats. Okay, so I assume you're watching that. This is Clay Eats. And if you notice, we have 10,000, almost 10,700 people. Let's see what we got here. 10,671 members, and 56 members are signing up. We're averaging about 50 people a week, and then some. 50 people a week now are coming to the site, which is amazing. And so I want to share you some growth numbers in a minute, but Clay Eats was designed to promote local small businesses that were not chain restaurants, but local family-owned small businesses. And for those of you that know what Clay Eats is, I don't need to explain it to you. But when we started, as you well know, Facebook and other social platforms are full of gripe sessions. And we figured this out finally. I've got a question that people have to answer, and it kind of sets the tone. But the bottom line is, can imagine, if you will, if you went out to dinner one night or one afternoon, and you came home and you're standing in your front yard, and your neighbor Bob next door pokes his head out and says, "Hey, Dave," and he said, "Bob, you're not going to believe this restaurant I went to. This awesome restaurant. It's. I've never been there before. Great food, great service. The price is right. It was awesome." That's the kind of information we want on Clay Eats. Instead of what we when we first started it, people would come on, and instead of doing positive response, they were out telling everybody the negative. And so they instead of that, they would say, "Hey Bob, I went to this restaurant last night. It was horrible. The food was terrible, the service was bad, and they ripped us off." Well, it's just a philosophical difference. It's about being positive versus negative. And so my theory is, if the positive places, the places that are doing it right, the actual places that are serving it up and doing a good job, they're going to have more people talk about them. And the ones that are doing it bad, if we don't promote them how bad they are, then no one's going to talk about them. And so over a period of time, you should start to see the reoccurring good restaurants, the people that are meeting and or exceeding your expectations. That's the goal. And then not to poo-poo on the ones that are doing a bad job, but hopefully encourage them to work harder, to build their brand and to work harder at what they're doing. It's a great little place in Keystone, and they've had some great response by us being out here, so other people in the other part of the county can find them. So the Tea Room in Keystone Heights, they've experienced some growth. In fact, they even sent us a note thanking us so much for their exposure and how many people are finding and discovering them. So what I discovered was how many great restaurants we have here in Clay County that we never knew about. And the key to this thing is we want pictures. We want pictures of food. How easy is it for you to post that you had a great experience, what I call a drive-by, and you probably never go into the restaurant, but you're just saying you had a good experience. We want the fact that you were actually there and to take pictures of the food. There's Four Trees Smokehouse, for example, over off of over in Middleburg. Where are they located at? See if you click on there, Henley Road. It's a pretty cool site. So it's worked out really well and it's been embraced by a lot of people. Let me show you something though. This is what people don't understand. So there's almost 10,700 members. This is going to blow your mind. Let's see if I can find this information. Go over here to the side. And I don't share this with everybody, but I think it's time for us to talk about this. I'm going to investigate. This is interesting what's going on at the end of the month here. I think it's just a date where they capture the end of the month. But 99,475 people in the last. Facebook captures data in a 28-day cycle because all months have 28 days. Some months have 30 or 31, but 28 days, it's an accounting thing. Anyway, so 28-day cycle, 96,475 people have viewed this page. That's not just this group. That's not just me staying up at 2 o'clock at night clicking on the group. This is other people. Okay. In the 28-day cycle, we've had 650 posted and commented. August is a little slow month, I've discovered, because their schedules are getting back to school and the teachers are out of money because they're at the end of their pipeline. Come September, these numbers will rebound. We'll be up over 100,000 people. So for those of you that have been on Clay Eats and said there's no impact from bad reviews, you're wrong. Because if you publish a bad review and maybe someone just had a bad day, then maybe close to 100,000 people will see this and it'll have impact and could possibly put that business out of business, and they just had a bad day. So I am an advocate and supporter of small business and defender of small business. I'm not a defender for the guy who does something wrong and does something he shouldn't be doing. But just because you had a bad day, I'm not going to punish him to potentially put him out of business. This has effect on people. So we want to build up those who are meeting and or exceeding our expectations. And Clay Eats is hitting it out of the park. So let me do this. Let me go back up here. Come over and join us. Come join the fun, as we say. and have a good time. All right, so the next phase I wanted to do during that campaign cycle was employment. Things were tough. It was tough to find employees. People weren't going to work. People were out of jobs. And so if you notice, we have promote Clay, all one word, promote Clay, and then Clay Eats, all one word. And I decided to come up with a group called Employ Clay. And it was about helping folks in Clay County get jobs. And so let me jump over there real quick. Bow, bow. Hang on one second. Bear with me. Share screen. So Employ Clay was a site that we started, and we felt it was important to allow local companies, and the rule is Clay County, St. John's, Duval, surrounding counties, anywhere that your employer within reach of, because some of us drive to different jobs in different locations. And so you can come on here as an employer and post your job offering for free. And then now we have almost 1,500 people, 1,502 people. Wow, I've got a post that we've had 51 new people this week join up. Wow. So we've exceeded 1,500 individuals. I'm going to put a new post up that talks about celebrating that. So 1,500 individuals. Now let's go back over to the growth over here. It doesn't have quite the success of Clay Eats, but 2,336 people have viewed this page in the last 28 days, and we've had 37 posts and commented. Now, the secret to this being more successful is employers using this. So if you know someone who's an employer who has the job, please send them to Employ Clay and let them start posting. Then it'll become a resource for people to find jobs. Now, the only thing I ask, I know there's a tendency to do this. Everyone wants to help out, but don't share postings. Don't be a private citizen and see a posting for a job and share it into the group, because here's the problem. We've had a couple employers call us and say, hey, listen, I don't know where all these people are coming from, but can you stop it? Because that job is closed. That posting's been closed. And so what someone did is they took an old posting, an old job posting, and shared it from some site they saw into Employee Clay. And the employer wasn't aware of that. And then they didn't have a chance to monitor it or close the site or close the job offering. So we're asking that only the agents of the organization, the agents of the employer, post into Employee Clay. I hope that clears things up, because I've actually had to jettison some people for doing that. And I know they're just trying to be helpful and kind, but the reality is it's more hurtful for the employer. And then he or she may not want to use our site again because it just causes more distraction. So I hope you understand that only agents and representatives of the employer please post into the site and read the rules. You got to have some, validated information about what you're doing and who you are, and contact information. We don't want no business opportunities and no scams. We're trying to keep all of those people out of there. Okay. Now, let me jump out of here real quick, and I'm going to introduce you to Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And this is how we've gone from Promote Clay singularly to this new organization, and how that came about. Okay. So Northeast Florida Business Alliance, it came to me that basically I've been somewhat of a nationalist, if you will. I've drawn a fence around Clay County. And unlike some organizations, we are a member-based. It costs us $96 a year to be a member of this, and I'll explain how that works. But I wanted our relationships to be based in Clay County. I believe that there's plenty of business here with approaching 225,000 citizens. Why should we have to drive all over Kingdom Come to find business? Let's start exhausting the people in our backyard first. And so what I realized was, over time, and it's been 4.5 years now. I jokingly say it's been a 4.5 year beta test, but the reality is we've figured out the things that we do things over and over and over again. And I started to jot them down, the practices that we're doing within our group. And so, first of all, we meet only on Thursdays. So Thursday are the days that we do our meeting times. And so I decided that Duval County, Clay, and St. John's were in close proximity, that any given time, any one of us is crossing a bridge or crossing a county line to do business. It just happens. It's not like we're driving to Orlando, so I didn't include Orange County or Seminole County, but it just made common sense that St. Johns County, Clay, and Duval. I looked into Nassau County, for example, but Nassau County is just slightly too far out of our way. Even though some of us, I know I had clients in Baker, Nassau, Duval, Clay, Bradford, St. John's, Union County. So in my financial services business, and of course in my furniture business, we had clients all over the state of Florida. But the whole goal was just to get out of driving 60,000 miles a year and quit driving all over Kingdom Come. So, especially with those gas prices. So it just made sense. The three counties, the Tri-County area, Clay County, Duval, and St. Johns County. So I wanted to start the same model that we had with Promote Clay and expand it. And so we came up with Northeast Florida Business Alliance. Now I'm guilty of making names too long sometimes. And so we just simply call it the Alliance. And that's what we've coined the phrase. So Northeast Florida Business Alliance is the Alliance. And that encompasses Clay, Duval, and St. Johns County. And again, this is a membership based that we have just over 50 members. It's $96 a year. And we meet every Thursday, the first Thursday of the month. You can see here on this particular post. The first Thursday of the month, we're meeting in Duval County for after hours from 6 to 8. And we're over at Iguana on Park. It's a cool restaurant. We were there this past Thursday night. The second Thursday of the month, we're over in Clay County at Eagle Landing Golf Course out at Oakleaf, another great restaurant, another local national company, but a local, as people work there and we're helping them stay employed. The third Thursday of the month, we have lunch in St. Johns County over at the Royal St. Augustine Golf and Country Club, and another great place to meet. And that's a lunchtime notice. And the last Thursday of the month, keeping in mind some months have 5 and some have 4, but the very last Thursday of the month is a private member guest event back in Clay County. So since we started at Clay County, there's 2 meetings in Clay, and there's 1 meeting in Duval and 1 in St. John's. So get over the Northeast Florida Business Alliance. This is a page you can like and follow us, and you can see what we're doing. If you're interested in becoming a member, I encourage people to come to one of our events. I'm about as hard to sell. This is it right here. So I won't pressure you any more than that. Either you get it or you don't. One of my phrases is we're changing the way we do business one relationship at a time. So this is not going to make Dave Theus rich, by the way. This is my way of serving my local communities and helping local businesses be successful, more prosperous, and helping them understand that building relationships are sustainable. The transactionary stuff that happens at most networking groups, I don't like that word networking, by the way, but most networking groups is very transactional. Some of them have great success. I'm not going to bad or poor mouth any of the groups, but I believe that relationship building is the sustainable factor, so that each one of us from my financial services days, I can remember saying that we each know about 200 to 250 people. So if there's 10 people in the room, 10 to 12 people in the room, there's 2,000 people in the room. Keep in mind, we may know some cross members that we know each other, but there's potential of 2,000 people being in the room. And so we need to build relationships. And how we do that is I create these venues and vignettes where people can come together and meet and break bread, have an adult beverage, have a soda, have a tea, and get to know one another and start those elements of building relationships. And as you know, as a small business owner, you're so focused, laser focused on trying to build your business, you rarely have time to develop those relationships. And so all I've done is taken that scheduling and that piece off your plate. All you have to do is look at your schedule and plug yourself into one of our get-togethers. We do some other stuff. Northeast Florida Business Alliance, we have a Monday morning Zoom call for our members only at 7 a.m. And so most of you have worked in a company before where you have a Monday morning meeting Well, if you're a one-person shop, who do you have your meeting with except when you're brushing your teeth in the mirror? And so we do a 7 a.m. Zoom call from 7 to 7:45, and that's for members only. And then we do these Thursday meetings, the first, second, third, and last Thursday of the month. And then we do member spotlight that you're seeing today, which I'm a member spotlight of myself. Um, and we have a Spotify platform called The Alliance, the member spotlight. And then we're on YouTube as well. You may be watching this on YouTube as well. And so we're trying to roll out these various platforms that we can use that are afforded to us to talk about what we're doing and help promoting. So I encourage each one of you to try out another recording, if you will, on Spotify or YouTube, and go there and try that out. So let's sum this up. What is it that Dave does? Let me get out of this. I think I've done everything. We've got, yeah, we'll recap that in a second. So why do I do this? Oh, I guess I'll throw out one more thing. So after the campaign, I came back and kind of said, okay, I've got all my business activity on Thursdays. I've got this free time. What am I going to do? Well, I heard and witnessed firsthand that we were in a shortage for substitute teachers. And I did some research and found out substitute teaching is flexible. They want you to work Mondays and Fridays at least once or twice, once a month, a Monday and Friday, because it turns out teachers either take Mondays off or Fridays off before the weekend or after the weekend. And so they have a hard time filling those dates. But after the COVID and all the other stuff was going on, they had a struggle finding substitute teachers. So I went and signed up to be a substitute teacher. And I taught in almost every school in the county, from kindergartners all the way up to, I didn't do a lot of high school, believe it or not, but I'd been coaching at the high school for 3 years. So at some point in October, I believe it was, or September, I got a full-time substitute gig in a reading class over at Lakeside Junior High. And I was enjoying the junior high age group. It was pretty cool. The kids were all right. And so I decided to go get my temporary certificate in business education. I have a finance degree and in business administration. And so I got certified from 6 to 12 and a temporary business education certificate. And I sent an email out to the junior highs and to the principal over at Fleming Island High School, since he knew me from my coaching days, and said, oh, by the way, I'm certified. Anybody needs me. Well, in October, I was hired at Fleming Island High School, and I call it a patch job. Basically, one of the coaches was moving to a virtual education role. And so I took over his class. So I had an accounting class, I had a personal finance class, I had an Adobe Photoshop class, and part of the accounting personal finance was economics. They were all electives. So talk about drinking from a fire hose starting in October and taking over a guy's class that was semester based so that we're going to finish that semester and then start again the new semester. Well, I completed my 1 year tenure over at Fleming Island, and there's some movement apparently that happens within the county. So I was not renewed, but I had put out an application to the rest of the county. And lo and behold, the week before the kids showed up this year, I was called back to Lake Asbury Junior High. And now I'm in the business education again, and I'm teaching business keyboarding and coding fundamentals. So these are elective classes again under the CTE curriculum in the business education. And so I'm in a junior high setting over at Lake Asbury, and I'm loving it. These kids are awesome, and the administration is out of this world over there. They're just super folks. So I am teaching because there's a shortage of teachers, and I've got my toe in the water, so to speak. I feel like it's part of the service back to my community that I can do. Um, it's cash flow. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's a stability issue during this small business crunch that we're in, and because of the way I've scheduled my small business activity, all my stuff happens on Thursday night. And so this new leaf that turned over some, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, instead of serving me, I wanted to serve my community. I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I don't know fully what's ahead of me, but this is my motivation. Um, in order to be a good leader, I want to challenge myself to lead this group that we have as Northeast Florida Business Alliance. I want to challenge myself to be a leader for the students at school that I teach, and to show them by demonstration of a good, to be responsible and to be accountable. Um, I love Clay County. I moved to Duval County in 1990, and I've worked all over the state. So I love the state of Florida, and I love what our governor stands for, to be free. And now I have an awareness more so than I did before as far as what's happening in the large scope of things. And so what the future holds for me, I'm not sure. But each day we get up and do something that's serving my community and serving my local small business owners, and try to help them be more prosperous and more profitable. And that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. And so I want to wrap up here. For those of you that have come to me and said, Dave, what do you do? It's a little bit of a different journey, that's for sure. Um, Someone that was right out of college, I didn't see this happening the way it's turned out, but it's here we are. And so I guess I'm an educator. I'm a business education teacher. I'm a small business consultant. I'm someone who's concerned about our country, concerned about our communities. I'm politically active. I want to have a voice in what's happening in the outcome of our country, our local communities. I was highly involved in this year's school board races. I believe that school boards are the battleground for our nation, and not school boards, but education, and that we should take that back from the progressives. And I believe that we need principled people in our government. So if my role is to help vet those people, to find more principled people, or do I have a role in this down the road? I don't know. I really don't know. But I know where I'm going to be on Tuesday. I'm going to be in class teaching my students. And on Thursday, I'm going to be with my clients of Northeast Florida Business Alliance on Thursday evening. So I hope this gives you some more insight on what we're doing. Check out Clay Eats. If you're an employer, enroll Employee Clay. If you want to check us out, what we're doing at Northeast Florida Business Alliance, the Alliance, come to one of our meetings. There's no pressure. If you want to join, you like what you're seeing, put some gas in the tank, as I say, and put 96 bucks in the till, and you'll be a member for an annual membership, and you'll see that we do things differently. We literally are changing the way we do business, one relationship at a time. And I'll put you on the newsletter list. You'll get the 52 weeks of the Small Business Patriot newsletter as well. I hope this has been beneficial. I hope this is informative. But anyway, I took this opportunity on this Labor Day weekend to share a little bit about me and what I'm doing. And in the meantime, I wish you continued success, be productive and prosperous. And as I always say, stay vigilant, and we'll see you next time.